Are you guys going on a Disney vacation? Want to know what individual lightning lane is or Multipass? You guys come to the right channel because we're going to tell you all the tips and tricks regarding the Multipass system that's going on at Disney right now, and another pro tip of how to get Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique even if you missed the 60-day opening window.
Check it out! What's it all about?
What's up, Gskis family? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This is going to be a video all about giving you guys tips and tricks for your upcoming Disney vacation, just like our upcoming Disney vacation. In fact, we're 7 days out, so this morning we picked our Lightning Lane Multipass rides, including our individual Lightning Lane rides as well, and we'll get in all of that, what our plan was, what we selected, why we did what we did, and hopefully you guys can learn something from what we've been doing. And I will say, this isn't the first time we've been doing it. We actually did a video similar to this not too long ago, back in September. Go check that out too. It's also very helpful. That video is proven and tested. We did trial it out. So the first advice I can give you guys is definitely gonna want to have a plan, and the plan can be a multitude of things based off what your family is wanting to do. The first thing to know is we're actually staying at a deluxe resort, which gives us a little bit of an advantage, and that advantage of course is it allows us to pick lightning lanes 7 days in advance of your vacation, like we did this morning. And of course for us, we live in Texas, so it's Central Standard Time, which is slightly different than Florida. So that's one big thing to remember no matter what you're doing, whether you're picking 60 days out for those Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique adventures, dining reservations, whatever it may be. Make sure you understand what time zone you're in. We came up with our own plan a few days ago, and I totally suggest you guys sit down, make your own plan.
Well, I'm gonna say that me and Michael go over our plan several times, like months in advance, maybe 2 or 3 months in advance. Sit down, talk about here each day, here's the rides that we want to ride each day that we're gonna prioritize.
We're staying at the Beach Club, which we said earlier, it's a deluxe resort, so it gives us that advantage of 7 days from our first night.
Your first hotel stay.
Yeah, that's right. Not park day, your hotel stay that day. That plays a little bit of part of our plan and what we're trying to do and trying to achieve. For example, we've stayed at the Polynesian and Grand Floridian, and we were gearing a lot of our stay around Magic Kingdom because it's right there and it's a little bit easier to navigate. Maybe it's your first day when you arrive at your hotel, like what we're gonna do. So our first day, we planned on going to Epcot because it's basically in walking distance of the resort.
Which is why we picked it. We're picking somewhere based on where we want to focus our trip. And so each trip is different. We have done, 2 prior trips where we spent a lot of time at Magic Kingdom and other things, and we're kind of focusing in that now our favorite parks are probably more like Hollywood and Epcot. So we're wanting to be closer to there.
The other thing that we had in mind when we were picking all these things, not only was the location, but what are those tough to get rides? And I'm gonna tell you right now, the toughest ride to get out of all parks is going to be Slinky Dog Dash. What does that mean? So for us, we usually try to plan Hollywood Studios a little bit later in our trip. And the reason for that is because there's people that obviously are ahead of you that are picking lightning lanes that are 7 days in advance from you. And so usually those Slinky Dog rides earlier in your trip are gone, or they're really backed up to 7 to 8 o'clock at night.
There's not gonna ever be a time where you're booking and like no one has booked that day. You wanna focus your most important days towards the end of your trip because those days are gonna have the most availability. Where your first or second day, like you might still have some stuff available, then you're gonna be more restricted on what times are available.
Definitely gonna be later in the day on some of those. So Slinky Dog is definitely one of the top ones, and believe it or not, at Hollywood Studios, for some reason, Toy Story Mania is another one that's going quick.
I think those are like the top 2.
Yeah, at Hollywood Studios. So why is it important to get the ride times earlier in the day? Well, that's mainly because you really want to scan into one of your first rides so you can go ahead and start selecting other rides.
You want to be able to unlock the system.
That's right. One thing that we like to do, and you'll see in our selections later on, that we usually have just what we call a burner ride that we probably don't even intend to ride, or maybe even a show that we may not even go to. We're simply just unlocking the system for you to select other rides, not just in that park, but other parks. Another benefit of staying at a deluxe resort at Walt Disney World is, of course, there is extended evening hours for those certain days of your trip. Usually they seem to land on Mondays and Wednesdays. So what we noticed, which happens to be one of our bucket lists that I haven't talked about yet, which is, of course, we want to go to Animal Kingdom at night. With daylight savings time right now, it actually never gets night by the time the park closed. We have extended evening hours where the park will stay open to Disney Resort guests that are deluxe resort guests, I believe, that will allow the park to stay open from 7 to 9 p.m., which is awesome because now we get to go enjoy the world of Pandora at night, which I've been so stoked about. I don't even care about riding Flight of Passage at that point in time. I just want to go and film some of the awesome lights that they have all around the world. And of course, the Tree of Life, I believe, will be lit up as well. So that was a huge item for us, and we were really stoked to see that one of those days that we're there, that Animal Kingdom is going to be open late. And the other day that we'll get an extended evening hour is at Magic Kingdom. Stay open until midnight for us. So that was a huge thing for us to plan around, so we know what park we want to be at for the majority of the time, because we want to definitely take advantage of those extra hours for deluxe resort guests. So I'll show you guys real quick how to get there. Basically, if you are at the home screen of your app, if you just scroll down and you see the 4 parks there, you got Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom. It says right there, show hours. Click on that, and then it'll bring up the calendar, and you can simply go over to the days that you're at the park. Now, you may want to check every single day, but again, usually they're on Mondays and Wednesdays if you want to try to streamline your search. But go ahead and check every day that you're at the park, and it'll tell you which days are open extra hours. And make sure it says extended evening hours for deluxe resorts and certain hotels, not special ticketed event. That's a totally different thing that we can get into actually in our next video when we're coming back in April. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you like and subscribe for that video. So without further ado, guys, we're gonna get into our lightning lane selections. Right before we get into actually showing you here on screen what it looks like, the interface on the app and how to do it all, we're gonna tell you what our game plan was, and you'll see what happens when we go through the actual thing, and making sure you have a plan B in some cases as well. What our plan for day one was, of course, going to Epcot, walking there right as we arrived resort, and basically, since we're getting there around lunchtime, we planned on going to lunch. So even when we do our lightning lane selections, we're already thinking, okay, it'd be great if we can get Remy's Ratatouille after or around lunchtime, knowing there's possible delays, you know, getting to the park, so we don't want to miss Remy, so we actually push that back. We're trying to get around lunchtime. And so with that, that's going to be our tier 1 selection, which gets us into our next kind of advice here, or tip, or things to know, really, is there's actually different levels of lightning lanes to select from. And so each park has different tiers and different rides associated to those tiers. And so for Epcot, day number 1 for us, the tier 1 rides are basically the best rides there, and you only get to pick one. You only get to pick one tier 1 at the beginning, and that's why it was so important when we talked about unlocking the system. And so the couple tier rides that we're interested in, the tier 1 rides that we're interested in, for Epcot, day number 1 for us is, of course, Remy Ratatouille. That's number 1 for us. Number 2 would be Frozen, and number 3, Soarin'. Now, why did I put those in that order? Because those are the difficulties of getting them. So Remy's is definitely going to be the hardest one to get later in that day. Frozen, there's always a slight chance to be able to snag that later in the day. And then Soarin' is usually flexible, and you can usually find that pretty easily later on in that day.
Obviously, go with what you prefer. So Aria loves Frozen, but she loves Remy's probably just the same or a little bit more.
Yeah.
So if we just knew we had a Frozen loving kid and that was like their top, we would probably go for Frozen first.
Yeah, essentially use this strategy we're telling you that works best for us, but then modify it for yourself, because that's what is important. Don't just copy what we're doing unless you love exactly what we're doing. Let us know in the comments, do you like what we're doing? But yeah, so that was our game plan for day 1, and of course we're gonna definitely try to grab Guardians of the Galaxy for an individual lightning lane. So let me talk to you about that really quickly. So the difference between the Multipass lightning lane, which is where you get to select all of the kinds of rides and different tiers like we just described, and then you have these rides that are so great, so grand, that Disney decided to add on an extra fee on top of the Multipass ride. You don't have to get it, but if you want to ride those very big important rides, which are the following: Guardians of the Galaxy for Epcot, Rise of Resistance for Hollywood Studios, Flight of Passage for Animal Kingdom, and then of course for Magic Kingdom it's Tron and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So those are the top individual lightning lane passes that you have to buy additional to skip the line. So the other thing to note about those individual lightning lanes, I just described 5 different rides. you can only hold 2 of those rides per day. If you're going to Epcot, obviously there's just the one, but if you have the park hopper, you can get another ride, but then that's it. You can't get another individual lightning lane for that particular day. The next day you can start all over and get whatever you want. Our ending plan of the day, since one of our rides was Guardians of the Galaxy, we wanted to possibly end our day at Magic Kingdom and get Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. And the reason why we decided to select that one, because out of those 5 rides, Aria, our youngest child, can only ride Seven Dwarfs Mine Train in terms of the ride height requirements. Another thing to make sure you guys are aware of, there are height requirements for all these rides, so make sure you guys are studying and looking at that as well.
So the first thing you do is click on Purchase Lightning Lane Passes, and that will take you to a screen.
It gives you all 4 parks to choose from, and basically, you know, shows you Animal Kingdom, all 4 or whatever. And then you choose the day you want to do as well.
So I knew I was doing February 2nd. Then you click on Epcot. Once you click on Epcot, you click on Multipass.
Well, and this is a good injunction here. So there's going to be Multipass, and then right below that it's going to be individual lightning lane, which is going to show you Guardians of the Galaxy under Epcot. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky, and it may vary for you. And what I mean by that is only 3 of us out of our family of 4 can ride Guardians of the Galaxy. And so in this situation, we're not gonna buy that in the moment in time together. Now, ideally, if all your family members are tall enough to ride it, you would buy those, you check both of those boxes at the same time. And that will take you to the next round where you can select the rides and also Guardians. If you have one person in your group that cannot ride it, it's going to be challenging not to buy it and deselect them as you go through the process. So our suggestion is always, if you have that situation where one person cannot ride it or doesn't want to ride it, you need to just buy the Multipass Lightning Lane system first and then come back and do the lightning lane system.
Right, so that's what we had decided. We knew that for that day, my individual lightning lane picks were going to be for Guardians and for Seven Dwarfs. Aria can ride Seven Dwarfs, she can't ride Guardians, so in our head we're like, okay, I'm gonna focus on Multipass picks, and then after I get those done, I'm gonna come back and select my individual lightning lanes.
So the thing is, so we have multiple purchases happening. So what Mom did actually was be able to combo Magic Kingdom and Epcot. So the Magic Kingdom individual lightning lane, which is the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and of course, the Multipass system for Epcot. And then Guardians will be a separate transaction.
My picks went good. I think we had planned for, I wanted a super early pick as our burner. So that, in our head, we were thinking the Nemo attraction, but we weren't glued to that. So if I could find something else, if I couldn't get Nemo at a super early time and I could find something else, then I would just switch it out with that.
Yeah, there's tons of rides
Nemo
that are tier
you can
2
like
that,
walk on at any time. So
that you can get basically at the park open. Now there's a theory that we've seen out there that we have not tested, but we'll go ahead and tell you what that theory is once your time expires from your first selection. So let's just say, like we did, we got Nemo, and of course we know we're not gonna even arrive to the park until 11 or 12. And so your time starts from 9 to 10, you can ride that ride for Nemo, for example. And at 10 o'clock, it expires. So there's a theory that's going on right now that once it expires, it will actually open up the availability to select other lightning lanes, including tier 1 rides. We have not tested that.
And you are still able to go on that attraction. Now, don't do it until we come back and report back.
Like and subscribe, because our first day is only in 7 days away, and so we'll put out a video for that, and we're gonna test it day number 1. We're basically not going to ride the Nemo ride because we won't even be at the park yet. It will expire, and then we'll see if it even allows us to select other rides. And then in theory, there's a 3-hour window that you can still scan into Nemo even though it expired. Right. So that's one thing that we cannot confirm, but we will test when we get there.
Right. I was able to get in, and you'll see in the screen recording, I was able to get them all super easily, pretty ideal times. Now, my problem is that I didn't have the correct payment on file. So I had everything ready, and once you click on everything, it gives you like 4 minutes, like once you click on the times that you're choosing.
5-minute shot clock.
And apparently I didn't make that window. I ran to the garage to get my card and put it in, and by that time my time expired, so I had to do it again.
So you lose all your selections.
So you have to start all the way back over. So I'm like,
And so why is that important? So it's super important because as you remember, we were gonna split up those days were 2 and 2. I ended up doing 3 days in the time that she just did that one. So that's, just imagine how quickly and what you can lose during that time frame if you're not prepared.
Especially for, like, if you were trying to get slinky or something, like, I probably definitely would have lost that. So luckily, it was just Remy's and then a couple not that important rides. So I was able to get my payment information in there, and I still was able to get pretty much the same times that I had originally got.
Yeah, so no big issue there.
Yeah.
But just a little forewarning, that is a good tip to make sure everything's on file, and so you don't have to go backtrack or run and try to find your card. Or even if it's not on file, you're not sure how to do that, at least have the card sitting right
And I
next to
thought
you.
about that too. I was like, no, it's right.
So yeah, our first day actually went pretty well, and so we'll jump over to some of the selections that I made, which is basically the rest of the time. As you guys now know, I did days 2, 3, and 4 for us. And so our day 2, this is where it got a little bit complicated because we actually did snag a Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique appointment for that day as well. We knew for a fact we wanted to start off our day going to Animal Kingdom and end our day at Animal Kingdom. And so in between, we also have to get, well, why is because it's an extended hours for us that day, like we talked about, which is gonna be a glorious time watching Pandora at night. We knew that was kind of our things that we had to work around. We had Bibbidi Bobbidi, we wanted to end at Animal Kingdom. We also wanted to start Animal Kingdom because it opens earlier than all the other parks. And we actually have tested this before. Go watch our last video. Oh my gosh, we got so much done before the park even opened. It was amazing. And so our tip for that is basically start off at Navi River Journey, go to Everest, or you can probably flip the two, but I always am cautious about Navi because, well, basically the people who rope drop Flight of Passage immediately go over to Navi, so you may be catching that group. So anyways, that's kind of was our game plan. We were gonna buy an individual lightning lane for Flight of Passage, and then use our second one for Rise of Resistance because I'm a huge fan of Rise of Resistance and Hollywood Studios. So that's what we were gonna try to do. Actually 3 parks and get a lot done while also doing Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. As we were selecting that, my main goal for our selections was not at Animal Kingdom because what we're gonna do is gonna rope drop Navi's River Journey, hit up Everest, probably ride that twice because there was absolutely no line last time we did this, and then get an individual lightning lane for Flight of Passage as early as possible, like 8 o'clock. And then we basically, those are our favorite rides at that park. We do want to do the safari maybe later in the day because that's when the animals are out. And so that's what we're gonna do at the tail end of that. This was gonna be where it got a little tricky because Slinky Dog, this is earlier in our trip, and I told you that it likely was gonna push that time. So we had a plan B. The plan B for us, if I couldn't get Slinky Dog before 4 o'clock, because we had to leave that park by 4:30 to get over to Magic Kingdom for Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. So all the things that we had to deal with. So the moment I got on to the app, first thing I checked, of course, was Slinky Dog, our Tier 1 ride there at that park. And unfortunately, the only time that I saw, I believe, was at 5 o'clock. It was later in the day, so I basically told Jennifer, hey, we're gonna go with plan B. So our plan B was for me just to grab Mickey's Runaway Railway as early as I possibly can, knowing that we'll probably get over to that park around 9:30 or 10 o'clock. That's what I did. Got Mickey's Runaway Railway right around 10:30. But I also selected a burner show, which is Frozen. Now we actually want to go see that show, so if we arrive in time, we'll go do it. But it may also start our clock and let that expire.
That's the hope.
And so if that works, this is also another amazing tip, okay? So that show time frame, all the rides are usually an hour threshold that you get to scan in and for it to expire. But not this particular show. You can scan in at 9:05 and then it expires at 9:20. So that one could expire at 9:20, allowing us to start selecting things at 9:20. If that theory is true. Again, we're gonna test that, but we'll find out. Stay tuned. We're definitely gonna find out for you guys. So I made selections based off that, and then of course I was just getting some of the other high priority ones like Toy Story Mania and some of the other rides like Tower of Terror, Smuggler's Run, those kinds of things, I'm pretty confident while we're there, we can get no problem, all before 4 o'clock. Day 3, I immediately jumped over to day 3 because those were my 2 days initially, was 2 and 3. Really, all we wanted to do for that day 3 was Hollywood Studios because, again, our favorite park. And of course, it's also really close to our resort. So another walking distance resort is between Epcot and Hollywood Studios. So good for us. That's why I think this is going to be one of the best resorts we stayed at. My goal was to start off with getting Slinky Dog, and I did get that. Didn't really care. We didn't have any thresholds or things to dodge on this one, so just got Slinky Dog for the earliest time I can find, which happened to be around 3:55, I believe. And then of course I wanted to get Toy Story Mania probably around that time since we're around that area. And then we're going to use our individual lightning lane, only doing one this time, for Rise of Resistance. I had a burner ride, which ended up being Star Tours, which apparently no one's ridden. We've never ridden, so I definitely want to check it out. The only reason we haven't ridden it is because Aria hadn't been tall enough up to this point, and I think she's going to be just tall enough this time. Star Tours is another one that you can get easily, and I think we're actually going to ride that one, but our game plan is probably to rope drop Mickey's Runaway Railway, and then if we can do another ride, we'll rope drop another ride, but then head over to Star Tours. In our final day, I noticed that Jennifer was running around like a mad woman, and I kind of had a feeling that something was going wrong with her stuff, so that I immediately asked her, do you want me to do the final day? And she said yes, and so I jumped over there, having known our plan, talked about it numerous times, and knew exactly what we had to do. So our game plan for that was to get Seven Dwarfs Mine Train sometime during the day where there was daylight still out, just so we can video it and get our reactions. Make sure Seven Dwarfs was during the day so we can film our kids' reaction, having fun on that ride, and then of course do Tron at night because it's amazing at night.
Well, the biggest thing I think was getting Tiana.
Well, and that's true
was
for the
number
Multipass. That is definitely number 1 for the Multipass of the Tier 1 rides is Tiana's, just because it's still relatively a new ride. Everyone's trying to get it. And I got that relatively pretty easy. It actually, I think my time is around 11 o'clock. Ended up backing that up and getting it pretty early. So.
And for some of these individual attractions that you have to buy the individual lightning lane for, there is no standby line. So you have to either purchase it or do the virtual queue. Which
basically is going to require you to wake up at 7 in the morning to do that, and basically you're not even guaranteed you're going to get it. So I did promise you guys a little bit of a Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, mouthful word there, a tip and trick and how to get it even if you missed that 60-day window like we did because we got our times all kinds of messed up. So the biggest tip is to download and purchase Mouse Watcher. That's right. And so it's actually relatively inexpensive to get the text notifications.
15 or less, I think.
Yeah, but it's definitely worth it. If you don't have it, you probably aren't gonna take anything I'm about to say useful. So you definitely have to go buy it. What it basically does is you get to select multiple days and multiple times for when you want to try to get Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. What we did was select every single day that we were there because we missed it. We were just hoping something popped up. So we selected all 4 days for morning, noon, and evening, all 3 parts of the day, and hope that things would pop up. And they actually do start to pop up, but they're also very, very difficult to get. Here's what I would say is a great tip on getting it. So what you want to do is if you're on your phone, which you can also do on your computer, and I've tested 2 ways here, but when you're on your phone, select the range date that you want in the calendar, and then also select the number of people that you're going to have do it, and then it's going to ask you to click next at the bottom. Don't click next. This is where Mouse Watcher comes in. If you have that thing just sitting there ready to click next, Mouse Watcher will eventually send a text when something comes available between those date ranges in the calendar. And the moment that hits your watch or your phone or whatever it buzzes off, hit next.
Yeah.
And what this does is you're already steps ahead of other people who are probably going to go and refresh or try to fill out everything.
A lot of people they click on the link that either comes with the text or comes in the app. But by that time, by clicking on that link, it's going to be gone.
I actually have it teed up on my computer set and ready to go right now. As soon as I get another, because what we're trying to do is modify again to try to make it work with our last day, because obviously we're going to be at Magic Kingdom all day, so we want it really on that day, but we're happy with what we have right now. But what I've done is I basically have my computer set up ready to go. It's hovering the mouse right on next, so the moment I get a text I'm gonna sprint over there, hit next, and then basically get whatever it's giving you at that point. You just wanna have something. You select your time, it's gonna ask you to put in your password. This is where actually Mom and I raced on one occasion, where she was on her phone, I was on my computer. We were neck and neck because I was like, oh shoot, we gotta put in our password. And Mom was like, yeah, me too. But her phone used facial recognition to put in her password, which got her ahead of me.
Yeah.
I don't have facial recognition for that on the computer, so I actually had to type it out. And unfortunately, Mom beat me, but we got the time for that. So that's a little bit of advantage if you have an iPhone and you have facial recognition for your password. Again, always getting one step ahead of everyone else, and that's another big tip. So guys, with that brings us to the conclusion of this video in terms of our tips and tricks. There's obviously tons more that we can give you, but you're gonna have to like and subscribe for our next videos for that.
Yeah, and if you are watching this video and you have any questions or specific questions, like what would you do or anything we didn't cover, just leave them below. And Michael will probably answer. I'll probably go put my 2 cents in too.
Yeah.
But we can help you out too.
Yeah, because there's always multiple ways to do this. We're not saying the way what we've done it thus far is the perfect way, but it definitely works for us. And we've gotten everything we wanted. And like I said, stay tuned for when we actually go to the park, because that's when a lot of the magic is going to start to happening. And see how many rides we can actually do while still enjoying our time at the park and stopping and eating as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Thanks for checking in as always. We'll see you guys
at the
park.
What was I gonna say? What was I gonna say about it? I don't know. You talk too long. I think you should start with, I mean, you're good, but okay, go.
Check it out. What's it all about?